Hello, welcome to a brand new video. Guaranteed Will Smith free zone. Oh yeah. Hello and welcome back to my world of stuff. My name is Paul Mount. Yes, it's that time again. It's time for another physical media roundup. I tend to do these, as I've said before, and I've got a few bits and pieces that I've collected up, or bargains and things I've picked up from various online sales when I'm out and about. So it tends to be every 10 days to 2 weeks. I think I'll try to get one of these videos up. I've got a few bits and pieces I've had in the last week or so, so I thought I would just give you a quick run through of the new bits and bobs that have joined in my collection. I'll start off with two things which arrived today, and as usual it's a mixture of physical media, i.e. DVDs, Blu-rays, 4Ks. This time we got some books, not so much comics as usual, so if you're not a comic fan, don't panic. And a couple of collectibles, the collectibles being, as I said, the things that arrived today. The new Doctor Who Eagle Moss figures, they come out every month to 6 weeks. We're now on something like 210 separate figures, plus all the extra things they've done. It's an enormous collection that shows no sign of ending. And most of the figures are actually extremely good. I've talked about these before. I've shown you previous figures and how good some of them are. But sometimes they do baffle me with some of the choices of things that they decide to foist upon us. Case in point, this one which arrived today, it's a Santa figure. Now, it's March the 28th. I don't want a Santa figure. This is, in fact, Nick Frost as Santa from the Peter Capaldi special from, I'm thinking, 2014, last Christmas. Not a favourite episode of mine. This is the one where Santa arrives with his elves. I can't remember much more about it, to be honest. I've only watched it once. I'm not a fan of that particular era. I don't want this figure. I mean, it's just Santa with a pair of glasses on. It doesn't even look like Nick Frost. Yeah, I don't want this figure, so it's just going to go on eBay. There's some funny, which I'm deciding I'm going to do now. I've got all the figures. Now, ones I don't like, I put away in storage. But I've just decided now, some of these figures, particularly sadly from the Stephen Moffat era, where I think that there are some things I'm not interested in, I'm just going to punt them off onto eBay. I actually put the Peter Capaldi in Davros chair figure, which I think I showed you in the last video, one of my last videos. I put that one onto eBay last week. Much to my amazement, sold for 46 quid. So I can only assume it's limited edition or hard to get hold of now. But I was extremely surprised and pleased to get 46 notes for it. So I hope it's happy in its new home and its new owner is very happy with it. I just didn't want that figure because I don't like the story it's from. And as a fan, Davros is one of the great, iconic Doctor Who villains. And to see him shamelessly taking the mickey out of in a story like this with Peter Capaldi wheeling around going, do you want a cup of tea? That's not something I want to be reminded of. However, having said that, so Santa's going to join that one on eBay. This one isn't, however. I do like this figure. It's quite a small figure. This is something which is a really nice figure. It's the servo robot from the 1968 Patrick Troughton serial, The Wheel in Space, which featured the return of the Cybermen. Now, this I think appears in the first episode or 2 episodes of the story, and sadly, most of the episode doesn't exist. We don't get to see this in action on the series, but it's a lovely little figure. I mean, it's very bog standard 1960s science fiction robot, a box with silly legs and arms and bits and bobs over it. But it's a nice example of that sort of daft creativity that Doctor Who had back then with silly things. It's a nice little figure. So that one's definitely not going on eBay. That's going to go in the collection where it will gather dust, no doubt. So anyway, that's my 2 new Doctor Who figures, as I said. Not things that I'm hugely... one of them is great. One of them is I'm not interested in. A couple of comics. I mentioned before, I'm sure, about my love of Countdown comic, which came out in 1971 from Polystar Publications. Very lavish, slick science fiction themed comic, which arrived sadly after the science fiction boom of the 1960s, so it didn't last enormously long time. I've been looking out for these things on eBay. They go for about £7, £8, £9 per comic, and I've picked up a couple here and there. I managed to get quite a good deal on 2 for about £8 last week. So I picked up 2 editions of Countdown. This is issue number 4 of Countdown comic. I will get it out of its protective sleeve to show you. This is a comic I have hugely fond memories of. I used to have this delivered on a Saturday morning, and I just remember rushing downstairs back in the days when newsagents delivered newspapers and magazines. Does that happen now? Is that still a thing? I suppose it is. Yeah, I used to run down on a Saturday morning or whenever this came out, I think it was Saturday, and read the latest issue of this from cover to cover, really. It was just a lovely, slick comic. I mean, it had classic comic strips, UFO comic strip, which I never read at the time because I wasn't that familiar with the series. Of course, they're now being collected in the Anderson Entertainment volumes. Volume 2 incidentally is coming out. And of course, this is the comic that gifted us the very best Doctor Who comic strips ever. And here's episode 4 of the first serial that they ran called Gemini Plan. I mean, the artwork is just stunning in this. I think this is artwork by Harry Linfield, who really caught that look of John Pertwee. And although most of the stories, they didn't really represent the TV series incredibly well, the artwork is fantastic. It's so sort of photorealistic. And back there you got a picture of Ed Straker from UFO. They had new strips for things like Thunderbirds. It was the space age comic. But as I said, sadly, because the 60s would seem the end, despite the fact that we got a man on the moon in 1969, popular taste had moved away from science fiction, or was moving away from science fiction, you know, as this magazine was launching. So it was sort of destined not to be a huge success. But I loved it. I had every issue. And of course, being a child, I mutilated them all. I'm just collecting a few back issues for my own pleasure. And I picked up this one as well. This is when it became rebranded as Countdown for TV Action, when they started having things like The Persuaders in, moving away from science fiction. This is issue... I can't find the number. Why can't I find the number? Oh yeah, 54. So this came out February 1972. Just over a year later, it was rebranding itself. And I do remember this particular story because the Daleks were back on Doctor Who at the time on TV. And this had a lovely picture of John Pertwee and a Dalek from Day of the Daleks on the cover. And I just remember that issue really well. It's quite scary. And I'll just show you the contents again in case you was interested. Again, you've got Thunderbird strip, a full UFO story. They used to do sort of full-length stories of certain things, which they would then rest for the following issue. And this is actually very nice. This has got the final episode of a Dalek Doctor Who story, Sub-Zero, again, which I remember reading really well. Of course, they've all been collected since. I've seen them umpteen times. But yeah, they're nice little bolts of nostalgia. So I'll try to pick up some more of these. But it's just, you know, it's a pretty good deal to get 2 of them, including quite an early issue for about £8. So I was quite pleased with that. Thank you, eBay. Right, on to the DVDs and physical media, which is what probably most of you are interested in. A few new bits. 1, 2, 3, about 6 new titles, again from online sales. In fact, I've got a couple more on the way, which will be in the next episode. But I picked up a couple of things from Zavvi. I think it's Zavvi. I can't remember now. Zavvi HMV. They do so many different sales. I think this was from Zavvi. This is Star Wars: The Force Awakens, which was the first in the new Star Wars trilogy. This is a lovely steelbook 4K edition. So this is really very nice. I've got this on Blu-ray. Haven't got around to pick it up on 4K. I think this was $16.99, reduced in a sale on, I think it was Zavvi or HMV. This just got its sort of J card, comes out the box quite nicely, and you've got your 3 discs inside with your artwork or photographic images, and some nice images on the inside packaging. So that's a nice little set. Not a massive Star Wars fan, but I do like, you know, I quite like a steelbook. And this was a decent price. I also picked this up. This is slightly annoying because this came out, only came out last week. It's Nightmare Alley, which I think I've done a review of on the channel because it came out January, February. January, I think. So nip back and have a look at the review. Again, it's another nice steelbook edition with a J card. This is only available on Blu-ray though. They haven't done 4K in the UK, which is slightly disappointing. It's just one disc inside, which has got some sort of art on it and similar sort of art on the inside. Again, it's a nice nice chunky solid steelbook. And I'm slightly annoyed because this came out, I think it was last week it came out, and I saw it online. I think it was $24.99. I thought, well, I like the film, I like a steelbook, I'll order that. The next day they were doing one of their promotions where it was sort of 10 or 15% off steelbooks, including that one, which was very annoying because I mean, it's only a couple of quid, but it's the principle of the thing. So I tried to cancel it and reorder it, but it was too late. It was already being processed. So with these things, you just got to take your chances, really conscious of the fact that prices do go down as well as up. These things are reduced in price very quickly. So it's all a question of how much you want these things and how much you want to pay for them. But yeah, it's a nice disc. I'm pleased to have that because I do like the film. Some of those which I picked up, this came today. This is a classic film. I hadn't heard of this until a couple of weeks ago when I saw it being advertised as a pre-release. It's from 1983. It's called House of the Long Shadows. And as you can see, it stars the quartet of classic horror movie stars. You've got your Vincent Price, Peter Cushing, one of his last film roles, Christopher Lee, and John Carradine. I think it's a sort of a portmanteau horror type film, from what I can gather. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'd never heard of this until recently. It does sound very good. It's got special features, audio commentary, House of Horror feature, House of the Long Shadows revisited, trailers, photo galleries, and it's also got, because the cover is absolutely lovely, it's a new piece of art, which is presented as a free poster inside the disc. The art is by a very well-known genre artist called Graham Humphreys, who does loads of sort of horror, beautiful horror art illustrated beautifully. It's a beautiful image, and his artwork is always really good. I had the pleasure of actually spending some time with him 2 or 3 years ago at film festival up in Manchester for Starburst magazine. He was one of the guests. I have to say I wasn't very familiar with his work, so I was chatting to him about doing art and stuff in the computer age. Really interesting chap, nice guy. So I picked that up. That was, I'm thinking, $10.99 or something from Amazon. This was on the network sale. Network TV, who do a lot of classic archive TV and films, they've been doing a 30% off sales over the last month, every week, a different batch of titles. And I picked this one up. This is a series called Beasts, which was aired, I'm thinking, 1976. 6-hour-long episodes by Nigel Neal, who was, of course, the creator of Quatermass, the legendary Quatermass. This was a Friday night, I'm thinking it was, horror sort of fantasy series. 6 creepy sort of supernatural weird tales to excite and terrify. I actually had this on disc before. I must have sold it a while back when I had one of my occasional clear-outs. Nice to get hold of it again. I think it's about $7.99. And I'm looking forward to seeing this again because I haven't said I've had it before. I don't know if I actually ever watched them all. So I will be watching these again soon. It's Beasts. You watch this now and think this was on ITV on Friday night at 9 o'clock. Can you imagine any British network, as they are at the moment, airing something like this now? It just wouldn't happen. It's all detectives and psychological thrillers and things. That's such a shame that British TV has lost its imagination by and large, but that's a whole other video. I'll pick up from a charity shop in Swansea, down in West Wales. I was doing some work down there last Friday. I was doing a medical role play thing, which was great fun to do. A friend of mine was there, which was nice, so it made it easy for me to do my first sort of session of doing that sort of thing. We finished about 12:15. We had a little wander around for a bit of spot of lunch, and he took me to a local charity shop, which had a lot of interesting bits and pieces in, including some Blu-ray discs for £1 each. And I picked up these two. This is Dark Shadow starring Johnny Depp. Now, I meant to have a look on my shelf to see if I've got this already. I may well have. It looks like a title that I might have picked up cheap somewhere, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't actually like this film that much. It's directed by Tim Burton. It's a reimagining, if you like, of the American gothic horror soap opera, which ran for years. Sort of a daytime supernatural soap, really bizarre. Never made much of an impact over here, but This was a flashy sort of remake, which is quite tongue-in-cheek and quite comedic, which is why I didn't get on with it all that well. But I thought for £1, if I haven't got it already, I think it's probably worth sort of having on the shelf. This one definitely is. This is one of Pixar's great films. Now, I'm not a huge fan of animation. I haven't really seen many of the more recent animated films. They seem to be flying out at the moment on Disney Plus and in the cinema. But this is one that I really enjoyed. I mean, if you've seen Up, you know the story. It's a beautiful sort of story, very poignant, very sad. And on Blu-ray, it's a Blu-ray DVD combo. Remember the days when they did those? Really nice bit of artwork on the discs. And that's a nice one to have in the collection. It's a nice feel-good sort of film, despite the sort of tragic background of it. So that's it for physical media in terms of things, collectibles and Blu-rays and stuff. I bought a few books. I do like a nice read. I'm rattling through some books at the moment. So I thought I'd top up my collection of books with some titles I was interested in getting. This one I'm reading at the moment. I only started reading it yesterday, Sunday, and I'm flying through it already. This is the autobiography of Daisy May Cooper, who you might know from the comedy series on BBC Three, This Country, and she's currently appearing in The Witchfinder on BBC Two, which is a bit... she's very funny. She's... it's hard to describe. She's a rare sort of bizarre comedic talent. But I do like her. I do like This Country, and I've seen her in other things. I think she was in Armando Iannucci's David Copperfield film a couple of years ago. I think she's very talented. I knew she was writing a book. I think it was one of those things that she did during COVID. A lot of people were doing things they wouldn't normally have done just to pass the time. And I must admit, when this came out, I thought, she's only had one sort of hit. Is it too soon to do an autobiography? But this is actually really funny. It's a very easy read. It's a fairly outrageous story of her upbringing in her life in Cirencester. But it's just a good laugh. And I would imagine, it's about 400 pages, but I'm about 200 pages through it. It's one you fly through. And this was £7. The actual retail price is 20 quid, but you can pick it up for £7 on Amazon at the moment. So if you like Daisy May Cooper, it's good fun. Two others I picked up, sort of things, various recommendations. This one, I didn't actually know the guy who wrote this was still alive. And I read about this in a magazine last week. It's a chap called Alan Garner, who is a British writer who writes sort of rural fantasies and quite bizarre sort of things. He's probably best known for things like The Owl Service, which was a TV in the 60s. Alan Garner is his new book called Treacle Walker. He's 87 years old, and as I said, I had no idea he was still alive. So it's nice to know that he is and still writing. This has taken him 8 years to write, and I think he says it's probably his last book. But it's a sort of, it describes it as a fusion of myth, magic and wonder, and the stories we make for ourselves, one of our greatest living writers. It has elements of time travel and an introspective young boy trying to make sense of the world around him. It's a kid's book, admittedly, but Alan Garner, I think, is a good writer. It's a short book, 152 pages, as you can see, fairly big print, so it ain't going to take me long to read it. And this, again, I picked up from Amazon for, I'm thinking, £6-7, something like that. Hardback, Treacle Walker by Alan Garner. And the final thing for this episode, I had to pick this up. I was trying to find it a bit cheaper, but it was $13.99 from Amazon. It's Bob Odenkirk's autobiography. Comedy. Bob Odenkirk, in case you don't know, and I'm sure you do. He is Saul Goodman in Breaking Bad and currently Better Call Saul. The last season of which starts in a couple of weeks' time. Very much looking forward to that. And I know he's not extremely well known over here. Of course, he was in Nobody, that madcap action thriller which came out last year. He's not incredibly known over here beyond those particular shows and films, because he had a massive career in a show called Mr. Show. I think he was in Saturday Night Live. I think he's better known in America than he is over here, but people who know those shows know him well. And I think this is going to be an interesting rattle through his life and his career. And he's been promoting it lately on some radio shows and things. So I'm looking forward to that taking its place in the queue of books for me to read in the next couple of weeks. So that, I think that's it. That is it. That's all the stuff I brought with me to show you for my latest physical media update. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've enjoyed this little video. If you have, why not press that subscribe button, wherever it is. Like it too. Leave a comment, thumbs up and all that sort of stuff. And keep hanging around to see what else comes up soon. There's going to be more film reviews. I will be doing a retro movie review of that Peter Cushing film very soon. I got a film review from yesterday to edit, so these two videos might arrive on the same day. So anyway, thank you for watching. Stay tuned. Keep taking the stuff.